Y'all ain't getting nothing for free. What's up, everyone? It's your boy, The Business, coming back at you live for episode 16 of The Business. Let's be real. Tonight's episode is going to be a continuation of part 2 that I started last week. I'm going to kind of dig into more now of the second half of my teen years, the trip to St. Ed's when I first made my run at St. Ed's, and kind of what that was like, that experience, some of those experiences there. And then, talk about the move to Florida afterwards that led to me coming back to Lorain and making a move back to Lorain, and then the life that was there to follow. I'll kind of try to breeze through it. The first parts of it are going to be a little bit, somewhat stretched. And then the later half, I'll kind of go through as quick as possible. To try to keep this show within like an hour or so. All right. So with that being said, The Business, Let's Be Real, episode 16 begins now. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to The Business, Let's Be Real, episode 16. Like I said earlier, I was going to kind of dig into somewhat of the part 2 B of the life of the business. I had started part 2 last week and didn't really have a chance to finish it. I knew like it was such an extended part that it was going to take quite a while to kind of tell more about my life in the later half of my teen years. So yeah, I kind of wanted to, like I said, lead up to where at the end of like my 14-year-old year, which was the end of my 8th grade year, Lorraine was on the verge of possibly losing athletics. So I had to try to make a move at that point then to try to figure out what I was going to do athletically and academically to try to move on to get into college someday. So at the time, there were some issues going on, and I was still part of the wrestling club in the summers over at Elyria Catholic so that I could wrestle in some tournaments and kind of stay in shape during the summer, not just showing up at tournaments and not being really ready to go. And at that time, Tadaki already had both of his sons were at St. Ed's already because of both wrestling and education as well, the academics there as well. So he had kind of brought it up to my dad about possibly doing that and making that move if necessary. And we kind of like felt like it was necessary coming into that point. So like I said, I went and took the entrance exam to get in, and was able to get in and, made the move then from, I was still living in South Lorain in the same house, but was making the move and the ride out to Lakewood, Ohio, then at this time to go to school. When I made the choice to go out there, there was also another kid from Lorain going out there. He was from the east side of Lorain. Danny King was making his move out there as well because he was a superstar at sports. I was just, a small star at this point, but he was like a superstar, and he could play football really good. He could play baseball really good. He was great at wrestling. Like there wasn't much that this kid didn't do that he wasn't great at. And so he was looking to make the move as well because he was nervous, I think, as well about the possibility of Ohio losing its sports. And I was lucky enough to meet Danny before because we played on Tippy together. Danny was so good at baseball that Danny was able to play on the 14-year-old team when we were on the 13-year-old team. That's how good of a baseball player this dude was. And he then when we were 14, Danny played with us. And I didn't mention Danny because I talked more about the 13-year-old team and didn't mention him when I talked about the 14-year-old team. But, you know, Danny King was on that team, and he was one of the monsters as well. He was a powerhouse, great catcher, great hitter. Like he was great at that time. So it was cool to see. But Danny King was also making the move to St. Ed's as well. And we both joined the football team. Danny was able to, you know, work his way all the way up from the freshman squad all the way up to the varsity squad. And I just played the freshman squad. And at the time when I played football there, they separated it because of the fact that they were stuck with two quarterbacks. And I happened to be the other one of the two quarterbacks. And they had a kid who was very traditional, who was big, strong, stood in the pocket, you know, made the right choices and the right throws. And then they had me, who was short and fast and ran a lot. And that really wasn't what they were looking for. But they made two teams to start the season. And then they finally came to me because they knew the fact that I had played offense and defense in all the years growing up through Pee Wee football and beyond. And they wanted me to transition to defensive back, to strong safety. And I was willing to do so because of the fact that I knew that I wasn't what they were looking for as far as a quarterback. Like I said, they wanted something more traditional, somebody that stood tall in the pocket and picked his throws, made his reads, and he was able to do that. And that wasn't me because, when I would drop back to pass, I couldn't even see over the line. So I took off right away to the sides and made running passes and was able to move around the pocket and just I was different. I made the move to defensive back, went strong safety, could hit, knew I could lay people out. So it was an easy transition for me. I was really fast at the time. I could move. I had great hands. You know, I wasn't your typical defensive back. I was very, good with my hands and could catch the ball. So it was funny because we ended up going on through that season and winning. The freshman team ended up winning all the games leading up to the final game against St. Ignatius. And when we played St. Ignatius, that was a big game because of the fact that, that team was always ranked, the varsity team was always ranked high. Not only in the state, but in the country as well in football. St. Ignatius is very well known for football the same way St. Ed's is known for wrestling. And now they're known for football and other sports as well because of that, because of how they've been able to continue a tradition in multi-sports. But at this time, St. Ignatius was the top dog. So, we played them. We played their freshman team, and their freshman team was good. We knew they had a great running back, big kid. I forget what his name was. Big, strong kid. We played them tough. We played them to we scored one touchdown. They scored none. Coming into the final drive, they had the ball, and they weren't able to drive. It was third and long. And I remember, and what's funny about this is because of the fact that I heard my dad's voice all the time throughout sports, that I remember going back into coverage and breaking out and hearing my dad call out from the stands. He was like, "Watch the halfback pass." But he said it a lot louder. He was like, "Watch the halfback pass." And I remember just hearing his voice. I mean, the place is going crazy. The crowd's going crazy. The cheerleaders, band, like everybody's going crazy. And I hear him say, "Watch the halfback pass." And I'm like, "Oot." And I look at him and I nod like, "I heard you, sir." And I watch this receiver come out, and he never has an intention to block me. So that tells me right away, like, okay, he's running out for the pass. He comes by me, tries to juke and get around me. I just start running with him. Halfback gets the handoff, comes around the end, turns up. Everybody else is in on the play. Everyone else is in. They're in on the run. They see handoff, run, attack. I'm running, just me and this receiver, and he chucks it. And I see it come up, and I'm like, I think I got a chance at this one. So I keep running, get up under it. I actually make the play on it, catch it. Receiver has to play the defender on me. He tries to pull it off of me. I keep cruising. He falls to the ground. I run back, make it up the sideline, run into this halfback who's also their middle linebacker on their defense, who can lower booms. And he and I meet at the sideline. Boom. And I remember shaking my head like, whoa, what just hit me? And I look down and he's standing on the ground. And I was like, holy smokes, I knocked him down. And I go to step over and I just get tackled out of bounds. And I remember jumping up and be like, oh, we won. And that was the final play that kind of pushed us past St. Ignatius for that game. Like that interception closed the show. Our offense came out, kind of went in victory formation, and that was the game. And super cool feeling. I ended up writing a passage in St. Ed's yearbook that year about that play, which was super fun. They came to me, the guys that were writing the yearbook, and they remembered that play, and they wanted to ask me if I would write a bit about that play and just what it was to us and what it meant for the school, and just, it was something really cool to do. So after that, though, I was kind of ready for wrestling season to begin.
My apologies. I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, Siri's talking to me. But yeah, I kind of, like I said, I went to St. Ed's mainly for wrestling. So I was ready to make the move and get ready to start wrestling then at that point. So wrestling season started, and this place was loaded with so much talent. It was crazy. Like, they had, I can't even tell you how many guys were in this room. And they had their own special wrestling gym built for them at the school. It was, wrestling mats from wall to wall and padding against the wall that said St. Ed's and champions and national champs. And it just had a spread of state championship, after state championship throughout the entire place, of all the guys who had won, how many times they had won. It was crazy. It was like the mecca of high school wrestling. And it truly is. It still is to this day. And I remember going in there, they would have it hot, already turned up. It'd be 80 plus degrees in there. And then once all the boys started getting going and our heat was going and we were sweating hot, that place would be up there. And no, super hard work, super fun time. I happened to be able to witness somebody that I watched in my weight class who was a senior and who was predicted to be the state champ at that time. So I got to just witness him and witness his career. Roger Chandler was the man then at that time at 140 pounds. So I never really I competed against him during practice, but I never tried to contest him for his position. I wasn't there for that yet. I knew that I had to, ride my time and kind of learn from these kind of guys to get better. So yeah, spent that time there. Loved working out with those guys. During our winter break, they had a wrestling clinic going on. And what was cool about that wrestling clinic is that they had a bunch of, Olympians coming in and coaches from all around the country and just former wrestlers that were, multi-state champions and went on to be national champions in college. And it was so cool. And I ended up inviting a friend from Florida, somebody who I had grown up with and had played baseball with. And I had talked about him on a previous show, Chad Ward. And so Chad Ward came out to visit me for winter break of our freshman year, our ninth grade year, which in Ohio, ninth grade is in high school, but in Florida, it wasn't at the time. Like he was still in his last year of middle school in Florida. And Chad Ward came out and was like, what is this? This is like the greatest thing ever, and had never seen anything like that. You know what I mean? A facility set up like that, and just all the big names and big stars that they were bringing in, and he was like in all of it. You know what I'm saying? And so appreciated the time that he was able to have out there in Ohio. Fell in love with the place. And yeah, we had a great time out there, and the reason why I'm bringing up Chad Ward and him coming out there on his winter break will come up again later in the story. So yeah, after that school year, like I wrestled through. I just wrestled freshman, like I said. I didn't do anything crazy. I had made my way up to the gold varsity team, which was a team right underneath the green team, which was the top team there. Wrestled a couple tournaments for the gold team, and at this point was like ready to make a move because of the fact that, you know, I went back to Lorraine, and Lorraine still had sports going on for some reason. Like they told us that sports was going to get canceled and get taken off, and they were still having sports going on. So I was like, I really want to go. I want to go back home. Like I wanted to be with my people and hang out and have a regular life at this point. Like I was like, I really don't want to do all this. I'm not, you know, geared for just school and sports and that's it. And so I really wanted to make a move from St. Ed's. My parents were open to the fact of me getting out of St. Ed's, but they weren't open to the fact of me going back home. Like they wanted, if they felt like as if I was going to make the decision to leave St. Ed's, that they were going to just pack up and make their way back to Florida. Because now at this point, you know, it had been, I want to say, you know, 4 years, 5 years at this point. So it was like, okay, the grieving process has ended. Let's make a move now to go back to Florida and live the life that they really wanted to live from the beginning, you know? So I remember making the decision to leave St. Ed's, and my dad was like, don't do this, dude. Like, you don't want to do this. This is just going to lead to a cycle of bad decisions for yourself. Like, please don't do this. And I was like, no, I gotta go. I just don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. And I wish that, you know, he would have just told me straight up, like, you're not making this decision right now, you know, and because I wouldn't have, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to, and maybe I would have been upset to be there, but at the end of it all, I would have known that was the best decision for me. So yeah, no, I made the decision to leave. When I did, my parents did what they said they were going to do. So they packed us up and we made our way. Then at this point, Stephanie is married. She had gotten married like a year after high school. She, you know, married her high school sweetheart that she was with for a couple years leading up to, you know, us coming back. Like it was back and forth relationship, you know, long distance for a while. And then, you know, so her and Kenny Smith had gotten married then at this point. And so it was just going to be me and my parents now at this point coming back to Florida. And I made the decision then to go where I knew, you know, I could wrestle, probably wrestle varsity right away and be able to kind of be with one of my friends who was a wrestler, and made the move to go to Lakeland High School. And when I first went to Lakeland, it was my sophomore year. So we were like the new kids, you know, because I told you before, sophomores, 10th grade was the first year in high school for Lakeland at this time. And So I remember going to Lakeland High School, and it just like didn't fit. It didn't fit, and I just didn't like it, and it wasn't me. And I asked my parents to get me out of there. I was like, I can't do this. I was like, I don't belong here. You know, I belong where my buddy was at. Chad Ward was at a different high school, and he and I had become real close because of the fact that I had come back to Florida, and Chad Ward was at Kathleen, and I ended up leaving Lakeland probably within the first grading period, and then made a move to Kathleen High School, and by the time I made the move to Kathleen, football season was already kind of on its way, and I couldn't just come on and join the team now at this point. And I wish I would have had an opportunity to, because of the fact that they had some players there that went on to play pros, and I'm sure Lakeland did too at that time. But I didn't play with Lakeland, and I had some friends that were on the football team that I had played with growing up, and but just didn't really, concern myself to join Lakeland's high school football team at that time. And they were one of the top teams in the country at that time. Like, they were top teams in the state, and went to Kathleen though. And Kathleen at this time was one of the top teams in the state because of the fact of the linebacker they had, Ray Lewis. And I had a chance to go to school with Ray Lewis, and Ray Lewis was one of the top superstars to ever come out of Kathleen at that time. But they had a squad of, multiple NFL players. They had Desmond Clark, who went on to be the tight end for the Chicago Bears. They had Freddie Mitchell, who went on to be a receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. They even had Paul Ettinger, the kicker, for Chicago, that used to stand like with his back to the tee and then turn around and kick. He was even there at the time, and that's how loaded Kathleen was. So Kathleen, I wish I could have got to play there, but I didn't get that opportunity because, like I said, it was already pretty well into the season by the time I made my move. So yeah, had a good time getting into Kathleen. It wasn't kind of hard for me to get to know the people in my grade because of the fact that I knew Chad, and Chad was Mr. Popular because of the fact that Chad was like a superstar baseball player. And I had talked about it in that part one on how he was, our star pitcher and hit bombs, and just, this kid was great at the game of baseball. And he was like the new up and coming star into high school baseball for the area. And, so his popularity was kind of unmatched at that time. And so I was able to, because I was a good friend of his, I was able to kind of get to know people very easily because of that. So during that time, we had gotten word, and it's kind of funny, but we had gotten word that some people were coming around to the school in a ballot because a brand new high school was being built in Lakeland, but kind of more up towards like the Lakeland Highlands area and stuff like that. So it was going to be called George Jenkins, and so it was going to actually zone some of the kids that were at Kathleen right now, and then some of the kids that were at Lakeland. So they were all going to have to go now to this new high school that was being built because they were going to be zoned for it. And the sophomore class was going to be the first kind of full graduating class from the school because of the fact that they were going to be like the juniors coming in. So they were going to have like a full class. The seniors that were going to be coming in at that time weren't going to have a full class, and it was going to be a quick Stephanie, I love you. I'll post that up. Love you, sis. Appreciate you coming on, checking me out. Because of that fact, they were given the sophomore class right now kind of a questionnaire, kind of wanted to come out and ask the students that were going to be kind of, the big class, the first class to graduate out of school, what they wanted as far as possible school colors and a mascot. And it was funny because, like I told you, Chad Ward was very popular at this time and was very impressionable. And he, like I said, when he came to Ohio over my winter break, he fell in love with St. Ed's, and St. Ed's colors are green and gold, or and our mascot is the Eagles. And he loved it. He was like, man, he was like, wouldn't it be so cool to have a school out here just kind of like that place? And I was like, yeah, I'm like, that would be kind of cool. And he was like, what if we did that? What if we did that with George Jenkins? Like, what if we got a bunch of people to kind of, follow suit and be like, yo, let's get the colors green and gold, and let's call ourselves the Eagles. And some people really accepted that. They were like, yeah, I like those colors. I like that mascot. Like that. Yeah, that's I'm good with that. Like, so we started to talk to a lot of people, and we're like, hey, what you think? What you think? And people were down for it. And yeah, it was funny because we know that, when they went to other high schools hadn't prepared for that question. So people were probably leaving all kinds of random stuff: Panthers, Tigers, this, the Jenkins Jaguars, and all kinds of random names. And then, he came to Kathleen, and when they questioned the sophomores, a big chunk of us all kind of voted for the colors green and gold, and the eagle as the mascot. And what's funny about it is that soon after that, it was announced that George Jenkins was going to be the Eagles, and their colors were going to be green and gold. And so we kind of enjoyed that fact. I know Chad Ward and I talked about this back when, I came back to Florida years ago. We laughed about it one time. We were sitting over some wings and just chopping it up, and we talked about the fact that, like, man, you remember how we were able to get George Jenkins to be the Eagles and their colors are green and gold? So all you George Jenkins fans out there in Lakeland, all you guys alumni and stuff like that, think of that. Your boy had a chance to pick the colors and pick the mascot for him, and that's what we did, and we made it what we wanted. So that eagle that you wear on your chest or on your back, or those, green and gold colors, that's because of your boy. So yeah, I kind of then started wrestling over at Kathleen, and it was kind of funny because I always got paired up against the upperclassmen, of course, because I was coming in, and by this point, people knew about me because of where I was from and what I was doing, and so I would wrestle up against a lot of the seniors, Dane Williams and those guys, and Dane had a lot of respect for me, and I had a lot of respect for Dane because Dane was a super cool character, was well respected, people never talk bad about Dane, and because of the fact that he was such a super cool dude. I was able to kind of get known then by the upperclassmen and kind of get, a little bit of respect from those guys because of the fact that I had respect with Dane and Dane had respect with me because of what I could do on the mat. He was like, yo, this kid can wrestle. Like, he's the man, bro. Like, we got to get behind him. And that started then a different way for me because then I was hanging out with a lot of kids that were a lot older than I was. I was no longer hanging out with kids my age, 14, 15, possibly 16 years old as sophomores. I was now hanging out with 17, 18-year-olds and older guys because of the fact that I was around these 17 and 18-year-olds who they kind of did the same thing and they hung out with older guys. So it was like, so those guys that they hung out with that were 20, 21 years old, I was able to hang out with too. And it then started, like I said, a different lifestyle for me. I kind of began to party, wasn't taking wrestling so seriously, was living off of then the kind of the fame of the wrestling, but turned it into something else. Wasn't, just really wasn't focused anymore and kind of started to push wrestling aside and push everything aside at that point. I didn't care about much. I was starting to get back into trouble again, a lot of trouble again. Didn't know what I was going to do. Really wanted to kind of keep kind of, hanging out and just being a kid for once, because of the fact that I wasn't ever like really given that opportunity to just be a kid and not have anything to focus myself on, like sports. And it kind of put me down the wrong path, and I started to get, like I said, get into a lot of trouble. Had to talk with my parents. My parents were like, listen, your uncle's offered for you to come back up to Lorraine. We don't know what you think about that. I know you're just getting into a lot of trouble here. Like, what do you think? Can you go there, and can you, do what you need to do? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm good. I'm good with that, And that's when I made the move to come back to Ohio. And it was late in my sophomore year, very late. Like, there probably was only a couple of weeks left of school. And I remember coming back, and of course, everybody knew who I was. So they were like happy to see me. And it was real great, and not everybody, of course, because there were some people that didn't like me. But I, like I said, for the most part, it was a good time of me coming back. And I was enjoying it. I enjoyed being back in the city. Maybe started to enjoy it a little bit too much, started to get foolish again, like didn't stop doing what I was doing. When I was in Florida, came right here, got with a crew of people that, were doing the same kind of things. They weren't trying to cause no trouble, but we were hanging out, we were partying, we were doing our thing. And it was cool because these people were actually like super chill. Really didn't want to, hurt anybody or bust anything up. And that's kind of when I started to meet, Troy Lovis and John Monteleone and Lupe Gonzalez and Steve Dibb and John Slavic and those guys, because of the fact that they were different characters. All were, kind of focused on their school. And then, we had some fun on the weekends and kind of hung out all throughout in different ways. Yeah, it was super fun. Like I said, but I started it probably a little too soon on coming back. During that summer, I did come back to Florida for like 2 weeks to visit my parents. They were then informed that, I needed to try to find somewhere else to go as far as if I wanted to come back to Lorraine, I needed to go somewhere else because my Uncle Gary had a young family at the time, and I was just not suited to kind of be around a young family at that time. I was a wild, rebellious teenage kid, and I wasn't, like I said, meant to be around, like I said, young families at that time, So, yeah, I kind of then had an opportunity to move in with John Monteleone. John Monteleone had come to me before I had left and kind of saw the writing on the wall and was like, tell him, listen, if things ever fall apart, listen, you let me know, you call me, you let me know. I'm sure my parents would be willing to help you out. And I was like, okay. Like, I didn't know what he was meaning by that, but he, like I said, he must have seen something going on just in case. And so Johnny, then, like I said, I ended up calling him while I'm out in Florida. Like, listen, I said, I can't come back to Ohio unless I make a move. And Johnny was like, well, then make the move. He's like, let your parents know we're down to have you here, dude. We'd love to have you, and it'd be super cool time. And so I kind of let my parents know, and that's the move I made to come back to Lorraine for my junior year. And can't show his family enough love and respect. I so much appreciate what the Monteleones and the Oswalds were able to do for me. They took me in as one of their own. Always took care of me. Always, didn't mind that I was just a foolish kid. They knew that I was a goofball, but they figured I would figure it out someday, kind of thing. Like they looked at the better side of me and knew that I was a good kid at heart. But I was just kind of, had no direction at the time. So, yeah, took me in, were super nice to me. I really enjoyed my junior year. You know, I had um, good friends. Like I said before, uh, I had been, you know, kind of on and off dating the same girl at this time. And really wasn't kind of doing too much. I was kind of quiet at the time. And then I got to a point where I started to get foolish, and I started to lose the girlfriend and just kind of cause too much havoc, and you know being out all the time and just not focusing on school again, and made some bad decisions, and went to try to start wrestling, made it through uh, a little bit at the beginning, wasn't coming to practice on time, wasn't in shape, wasn't ready to go. Just knew I had weird strength and could wrestle and do my thing, but it wasn't what it was supposed to be. And yeah, like I said, I started to lose it all at this point. This is when the partying first started, when I was a sophomore. Now as a junior, it was really getting ahead of steam. And yeah, that's when I started to kind of, like I said, I lost a girlfriend. I lost many friends now at this point, because I was just not, somebody that, I had my crew, and we were it. And that was pretty much all I wanted to be around kind of at that point. And yeah, that led me into my senior year. Johnny at this point then was going off to school. And I was in Lorraine then, with just me, and my mother had made a move to Lorraine to kind of help me get a place. And I ended up getting a place like right across from Oakwood Park. And she got the place with me, helped me rent it out. She was never there because of the fact that we were just foolish, and she didn't want to be around any of that. And she didn't want to have anything to do with any of that. So she would go to my sister's house, who had just, had a baby at the time, and, was kind of just hanging out with them, and they didn't mind, that she was there, and, she would help, and she would do all the things that, as like a mother-in-law could do. Like, so it was nice for them to have her around. And I was just, at this point, I had taken it to a whole nother level as far as what I was doing, because of the fact that then I had my own place pretty much, and wasn't going to school then, and would show up just a couple of times throughout the week just to see what's up. Would always show up at Friday lunches. We'd have 3 periods of lunch, and I'd show up for the first period and just sit through all 3 and just kind of talk to everybody and find out where the parties were and where there was to go this weekend. And, and people knew when they came by, they could come by all throughout the week, anytime pretty much. And I would be around, and, would just hang out with people, and really, like I said, didn't focus on school. Didn't focus on anything at this point. I had kind of let it all go past. And then, my prom came up because of the fact that I had burnt so many bridges with so many of the people that I was around. Didn't really want to ask anybody to go to prom from my school. So I ended up going to prom with someone from another school. And then, because of the fact that I did that, they asked me to go to their prom as well, because they didn't want to go with somebody from their school as well. So they were like, I don't want to go with anybody from my school. Would you mind going with me to mine? And I was like, no, that's cool. And hers happened to be the week before mine. And so, yeah, I went with her to her prom. And then the following week, she went with me to mine. And yeah, we kind of somewhat started dating at this point because of the fact that we were just around each other a lot. We're having some fun, but it was young, kid, foolish fun. And then, yeah, school finished. summertime came, and soon after we got into summertime, I remember her coming to me and just saying, she didn't want to really do it anymore, and I understood, because we were two totally different kids. It wasn't the same, and then and like I said, I understood that at that point, and then a few days later, she came back over to see me and said that she could possibly be pregnant. And I didn't know, what I was doing kind of with myself at that time, let alone what I was going to be able to bring to the table for someone else. And so it scared me and excited me all at the same time. I don't know if I handled things the right way, and just didn't leave the best impressions on things. So, for the next, 9 months, 10 months, we tried to work things out, and would see what, if it was going to work out, and it really didn't. And yeah, so then February of kind of like my 19-year-old year, my son was born, and Tristan, you know what I'm saying? What's up, buddy? I love you. And I just still, like I said, wasn't at a good place. I wasn't at a good place with her, especially, and she just didn't really want to have that around because of what I was doing at that time. And I understood that. I at this time was no role model, and wasn't what people kind of, wanted to be around kids at that time. And like I said, it had been like that for a couple of years now. I mean, I got it. I did want to be there, but I knew that, like I said, I couldn't control it at that time, the beast that it was. And yeah, so I did it for a little while. I kind of then made it to where, just to make it easier on her and him, I left the area and came back to Florida at the time. There were some more jump backs between Florida and Ohio, between my junior year as well. I didn't really touch on that too much, but it was pretty much the same stuff. Like, it was a lot of misdirection. I was just all over the place, and that was kind of why, like I said, so many things had started to fall apart early in part 2. And then, you see the continuation of it, and part 2 being like 2A. 2A was, I started to, lose a lot and lose a lot of interest in things that, I shouldn't have yet, because I was still too young to be losing interest in things. And then, it just steamrolled from there into me losing interest into everything, even myself. And, it made things tough. And that went on for, quite a few years. And like I said, at this point at 19, had a son, wasn't a good role model, needed to make a move to go back to Florida to try to, let them be, was willing to do whatever, was kind of asked at that time. I just couldn't, like I said, I couldn't be a role model. And, yeah, so I came back to Florida, stayed here for a while, met some really cool people out here. Had some family friends out in Orlando and Palm Bay that I could go visit with, and they would, come and get me for the night and let me stay, and you just come with us and hang out and party. And, Jose Ortiz was here, which Jose Ortiz was from Ohio, and I had played baseball with his family, and they came out and lived with us for a while when I was younger, and then they made their way and, lived in Lakeland for a while, and then moved to Palm Bay. And so he was out there, and him and his sister would come get me. Him and Christina would come pick me up all the time and bring me back to hang out with them and just chill with them and just kind of get away from things. And, I would go out to Orlando and, spend time with Elliot and those guys that were all there for me as well, because it was cool crews everywhere. Helped me kind of, get over what I was kind of thinking at that point. And and then I made a move back to Ohio because I wanted to try to give things another shot. Tried as I might, but it just wasn't working. And yeah, it was like, so it was like I knew where I was at this point. I knew that it wasn't where I needed to be. And then yeah, I'll kind of dig in some more now into the parts of part 3. I don't know when that episode's going to happen. But yeah, that from where I'm at that 1920 era to now, I'll kind of let you guys know more about that in part 3, and just kind of still some of the misdirection that I have until finally, making my way back to Florida later, like right before I turned 25. There were some young ladies I met that were, one was really nice to me, and then the other one I made a decision with, and it just didn't work itself out. So and that'll come up, like I said, in part 3. So it's like I just kind of want to, like I always say, want to kind of give you guys some more insight into me, the person, tell you about what my life was like, some of the bad decisions I made, some of the good decisions I made, some of the cool things I've done. And that's what kind of molds us to characters. We can't all be perfect out there. It's tough. Life is tough. It was funny when, like I told you guys earlier in the show, when I was leaving St. Ed's, and I remember my dad telling me, like, don't do this because this is going to start, a time of you quitting on everything, quitting on yourself. And I was like, no way. And it truly did. Like it truly started and steamrolled, a big ball of what was going on, and didn't really turn out the way I'd hoped. Never made it to college at the time, like I should have, with the sports coming along with it. Didn't do some of the things that I know I could have if I would have just, not quit on things, and that was what I really wanted to do, was live this fame life as a youngster, but didn't want to put in the work for it. So, it's tough. It's tough. So I appreciate you guys coming out. I'm going to give, one shout out. I do have an announcement to make. LockItUpTennis.com, and the games are coming back with another event. It's going to be Saturday, May 8th of 2021. It's going to be at the Sarah Vandenberg Tennis and Wellness Center out in Zephyr Hills, Florida. And it's a $20 fee, entry fee to get in. It's a $250, grand prize for it. And, I happen to be lucky enough to be asked to be one of the sponsors of it. And I was so happy to do so. If you haven't had a chance to go on to Facebook and look at Damian Ferris Montgomery's Facebook page, he's got a video up on how the game is exactly played. They used a bag, and it's, I don't want to put their name out there too much, but, it's because it's not, endorsed by Slinger Bag, but he uses a Slinger Bag that shoots out like 75 balls, and you have to catch them and try to put them into the bucket that they have there set for you, and whoever can do the most, because it's not easy, can come out the victor. So he gives a good explanation of it on how it's played on his Facebook page. So check it out. Damian Ferris Montgomery, LockItUpTennis.com. The game's coming at you May 8th, 2021. Like I said, it's the Sarah Vandenberg Wellness and Tennis Center in Zephyr Hills, Florida. Yeah, so that's something I'm tied in with. I really enjoy Ferris. I enjoyed getting a chance to interview him. We were going back and forth at it, having fun. And then I had Bart on the following week, also talking about Lorraine Proud and some other things they're doing as well, and they're tied in with this event as well. Some of the proceeds, I'm sure, again, will go to hashtag Lorraine Proud and kind of help, like I said, local business owners and their businesses to kind of help, continue to grow and, perform it and do what they can do for the city. So that's kind of like what I want to do tonight. I appreciate you guys for coming out and checking me out. You can always find me at Tony Gonzalez Facebook page, the Business Let's Be Real on YouTube and the Business Let's Be Real on Instagram as well. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and give my final quote of the night, and I'm going to get you guys out of here. My final quote of the night is, success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. Remember that, you don't have to always make it big things that you're trying to do. But if you just do one small thing at a time to continue to work hard, it's going to pay itself off. Just believe in yourself, and I guarantee you, we keep grinding, it'll show. With that being said, the Business Let's Be Real, episode 16. I appreciate you all. Over. Out.